This video is going to be about the distributive property of multiplication, which is really intimidating to students because you use parentheses and those haven't necessarily been talked about in third grade math until this point. So there's sort of just a lot of new characters and symbols and it looks more confusing than it is. The distributive property can help us solve problems that would be cumbersome to solve otherwise. So if we look at a problem like 14 times 6, basically it's telling us that we can find addends for one of our factors and split this problem into two easier problems to solve. So I'll show what that looks like first in an array. So let's say this is a rectangle and it has a side of 14 and a side of 6. And I'm not going to bother drawing all of, a grid to fill it out, but we know to find the area, we would say 6 times 14. Instead of calling this side 14, let's divide it into 10 and 4. Now we've broken this into two easier problems to solve. This square is a 10, or not square, rectangle. This is a 10 times 6 rectangle, and we can find the area of that really easy. It's 60. And here, we've now made this a much easier problem to solve, 4 times 6. So we might say 2 6s are 12, so 4 6s must be 24. Then to find the area of both of those, we just need to add those. So 60 plus 24 is 84. So 14 times 6 must be 84. So that's kind of using an array to show why the distributive property of multiplication works. Here's the messy, intimidating way that textbooks encourage students to do it. So I'll just rewrite it. 14 times 6 equals, we don't know. So we take one of our factors and break it into some easier to work with addends. In this case, it's kind of the easiest way is to do 10 plus 4 because 10 is so easy to work with. We still need to multiply that by 6. So then we can distribute the 6 into those parentheses like that. Solve each of those problems. 10 times 6 is 60, 4 times 6 is 24. Okay, we get to our same product. I had a student this year who came up with a really interesting way of processing all of this. And his strategy for 14 times 6 looked like this. So he kind of went back to a really early method of multiplication, which is kind of drawing equal groups. So 14 groups of 6, or we can think about it as 6 groups of 14. So if somebody doesn't know I'm doing a video, if you can hear that. So here's my 6 groups. Instead of drawing 14 dots in here, which is kind of the first way we learn multiplication, he started to do this. And I had never seen this done before until the student kind of came up with it, and it just clicked for so many of my students who watched him do this. And he would say, okay, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And he would add on 64, 68, 72, 76, 80, 84. So he was using models, equal groups, models of equal groups, and skip counting. And I told him, I said, you really are visually showing the distributive property in a new way I had never seen. And he thought that was pretty cool, and so did I. So here are 3 different ways that you can look at the distributive property of multiplication.